Are you looking to employ a more diverse workforce? Are you an individual who is studying at an HBCU? HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. This video explores an organization that helps train Black college and university students to have an IT career that offers organizational hiring partnerships. Welcome to 100 Days of Trailhead, where the tech community comes to learn Salesforce, learn tech, get inspired, and invest in ourselves. We are your trail guides, here to support you on your learning journey. We release videos weekly. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. In the description below, you can find links for everything we mention in this video, as well as books and resources we found useful. Visit our blog, 100daysoftrailhead.com, for other helpful Salesforce and tech content. HBCU Force is a nonprofit that trains Black students from HBCUs to attain an IT career. Learn more about HBCU Force in this video and how your organization can partner with them. Tiffany Spencer, the head of HBCU Force, is a 7-time certified Salesforce MVP, co-leader of the Orlando Salesforce user group. She is currently the COO of SR Consulting Group and has more than a decade of leading digital transformations with companies across various industries.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for 100 Days of Trailhead for allowing me to record this video to talk a little bit more about HBCU Force. So I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the Careers in the Cloud Workforce Development Program from HBCU Force. I am Tiffany Spencer. I am a 7-time certified Salesforce MVP. I am a co-leader for the Orlando Salesforce user group. I am currently the COO and a partner at HbCU Consulting Group, executive director of HBCU Force, and also programs director, board chair with Black Orlando Tech. I have been in the Salesforce space for over 13 years. I started off as a Salesforce administrator, moved into the Salesforce business analyst role, and then into a consulting role, and then also into a solution engineer role before partnering with Ronaldo Da Silva and HbCU Consulting Group. I have been involved in the ecosystem and actually in tech and in mentoring and ecosystem building for a number of years. I'm really active inside of the Orlando community, active with my alma mater, Bethune-Cookman University, which is what my shirt says. It says there's no HBCU without BCU, so hail Wildcats. And I'm really excited to kind of share with you some stories from some HBCU Force participants, as well as a little bit about the history of HBCU Force. Here, the co-hosting sort of with me, and somebody you were here, and you always see in regards to all the activities that I'm doing with the HBCU Force is Brian Owens. Brian is our assistant director and board chair of HBCU Force. He's a 4-time certified Salesforce professional and Golden Hoodie recipient. He is a graduate of Ashford University and is a proud alum of Miles College Upward Bound program. Miles College is one of the universities one of the colleges that we work with as a part of HBCU Force. Just to give you a little bit of information, HBCU Force is a nonprofit organization that partners with HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions and organizations to implement programs that provide early access to cloud computing careers. And our vision is a more diverse and inclusive tech workforce. We all have been exposed to, work in, or have read about organizations, specifically tech companies, that have not as many diverse employees as we would hope that they would. And there has been an ongoing conversation about how to increase the number of diverse employees inside of organizations. And with HBCU Force, our goal is to not only train the next generation of tech professionals, but also to assist those individuals with getting internships, with their resumes, with mentorships, with helping them to, at the end of their journey, actually being employed, and to actually close the circle from certification and exposure to Salesforce all the way to getting that first job offer and beyond. And so you'll get to hear from a number of panelists that we've interacted with along their journey. So in the core HBCU Force student journey, here are the 4 steps that our students go through. So one, the first step is exposure. Our first goal is to expose students to Salesforce by helping them to get introduced to CRMs and Salesforce fundamentals using Trailhead. The second goal, the second step in the Salesforce, in the HBCU Force student journey, is to actually empower students and to help them to get certified. We provide for them an exam voucher so that they're able to take one of the Salesforce certification exams. The third step in the student journey is experience. And so we not only want students to be exposed and get certified, we want them to actually have experience that they can put on their resume. And so with that, we help to find students projects or internships, either with ESOR or another Salesforce partner, or with HBCU Force. We help students to get some hands-on real-world experience that they can then put on their resume, so that when they do graduate, they are more than qualified to go into an entry-level job. And so the very fourth and last step is to help them become and stay employed. We want participants to be extremely successful in their careers, not only getting that first job, but understanding the culture, understanding how to career plan, understanding their job offer letters. These are all things that we do at the end of a participant's journey. So I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. So today you will get to hear from Shayla Mark. Shayla is a global Salesforce administrator analyst here in Orlando, Florida. She's 3-time certified. You'll get to hear from Jackie Dorsey, who is an implementation consultant. She's a certified Salesforce admin, also here in Orlando, Florida. You'll hear from Devon Coleman, who is an implementation specialist. Both Jackie and Devon are with Salesforce consulting partners. And you'll hear from Ryan Williams, who is a new graduate of Bethune-Cookman University. He is a certified Salesforce administrator and will be starting his career at a large global implementation partner, which I'm really excited about. So just to give you a little bit of background about HBCU Force and actually me and kind of how I started. So I mentioned to you earlier that I was past president and currently like a board chair program director with Black Orlando Tech. Black Orlando Tech does 8-week tech cohorts. And one of our very first tech cohort was a Salesforce cohort that we did back in July of 2019, maybe? Thank you. July of 2019. That was a BAM session actually that we did in conjunction with the Orlando Salesforce user group. And from that BAM session, we had so many people show up that I decided to offer a 10-week, well, it was probably supposed to be 8 weeks, but it was 10 weeks or more training program that I offered to participants. And Jackie and Shayla were actually 2 individuals that showed up at that BAM session. And so I'll start with you, Shayla. One, hi.
Hello.
And can you tell me a little bit of what made you show up to that BAM session and what made you interested in Salesforce?
Well, thank you, Tiffany. My story is a little different. I actually transitioned from a career in education. I worked with Orange County Public Schools for 14 years at the district office in their career and technical education department. And we actually had an initiative to get more minorities in STEM. And I was asked to sit on that I guess, task force to help with that initiative. And so I reached out to Black Orlando Tech. And in doing so, I noticed that the president, who happened to be Tiffany at the time, her title was Salesforce consultant. And so I had always been interested in tech, but I was also intrigued in Salesforce. I had never heard about it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that she was really excited to talk about it. She invited me to join. And so I initially joined to learn about it, to bring it back to the district and just provide some guidance on how we could partner with Black Orlando Tech.
Awesome. Jackie, what about you? I know you were there that day too.
Yes, I was. So how I was introduced to Black Orlando Tech was actually I had a friend who's already in the tech scene. And I spoke to her about wanting to transition to tech as well. And I told her I was already working on Trailhead, doing my first trail because my cousin was the one who initially introduced me to it. And yeah, so she said, hey, like I heard you talking about Salesforce. They're actually doing an introduction to Salesforce at Black Orlando Tech, you should go. And so I ended up going and I met Tiffany and it was a big turnout. And she asked for all our emails and she offered, for us to go through the certified trail, like prepare for your certification trail mix. And so that's how I got started and I just stuck with it.
Got it. And so, Shayla, I know you transitioned from education. Jackie, where were you transitioning from?
I transitioned from the legal field. I worked in a medical malpractice law firm.
Got it. And so, can you tell everyone a little bit, I guess, about your experience? We spent Tuesdays and Thursdays, or was it just Tuesday? Was it 2 times?
I think it was just Tuesdays.
Tuesdays? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just Tuesday.
Yeah, it was just one day a week.
So we spent 2 hours for 10 weeks going through trails and to get you prepared for your admin certification. What was that like for you? Like, were you excited? Were you like, what am I getting myself into?
At first, like, what am I getting myself into? Because it's a little difficult, to wrap your head around it initially when you're first starting off. But the Trailhead platform makes it so easy and it's like engaging when you're learning about Salesforce that it kind of, at least for me, kind of motivated me to just keep going. But along with the Black Orlando Tech and having that cohort, we kind of became like family. Like we were there to encourage each other, and just the whole learning process was much easier and more fun, because we had each other to kind of like bounce ideas off of and to have supporting us along the way.
Yeah, I agree with Shayla on that it definitely created a family. We started off with a large class, and by the time we got to the end, it was just 5 of us who stuck it out. And so we definitely did forge a bond, and just having someone who's going through the same process as you was very helpful in keeping you encouraged, because it is a learning curve, especially if you're not used to tech and you're transitioning from a whole different career field. The learning curve with it can be a little, scary. But when you have someone else who's going through that process with you, it was very helpful in keeping us motivated, for sure.
And Shayla, I know that you have, a whole family.
Yes.
And how was that experience? I know that when people hear HBCU Force, sometimes they think I just work with college students, and that's actually a part of our audience. But my very first audience and individuals that are working with were career transitioners. And like you had a whole family to, to tend to. So how
4
was
girls. It was definitely challenging a lot of times. And my girls are younger. I have at the time, she was 1 year old and I had a 3-year-old. And then I had some that were older. The older 2 were older. But it was definitely challenging. My husband works a night shift, so I was pretty much operating as a single mom a lot of the times, but grandmas would step in and watch the girls, so I could come to class. And then during the week when we weren't at class, as soon as I put them to bed, I was staying up late, studying and practicing for the certification exam. But it was definitely challenging, and it actually, got in the way for a little bit. I took the certification exam for the first time and I didn't pass, and I kind of just stopped and kind of gave up on it a little bit. And then I saw the next round of folks coming through, like Brian, who got a job. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I started before this dude, so let me get back on it. And I did. I started back up in July. I got certified in that July. And by August, actually September, I had a job offer, and then I started in October. So once I got that certification, it happened really fast, but I could not have done it without HBCU Force being there for, like I said, the support, and also providing us with opportunities to gain hands-on experience with implementing Salesforce for the nonprofits that we had a chance to work with.
Thank you, Shayla. And Jackie, you again were working full time. You were not really able to, sneak and do trailheads at work. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not much. And so,
Yeah.
how did you manage going through the training and everything you needed to do to get certified?
I really utilized all the time I had. So it pretty much required me to balance the time I had. So when I had the free time, I would get on Trailhead. I would do my focus on Force. I would study because my ultimate goal was to become certified. And so, when we were going through that, like we would have our little study sessions outside of meeting, the Fab Five. We would come together on our own. We decided to just come together to study because we all wanted to be certified. So, I just made.
And because I had to kick you out to the curb, but go ahead.
I just made good. I made good with my time. I utilized the free time that I had, and I just balanced it all out just to become certified. And then when we did, when I was able to get the projects, so what I had to do was I would literally hold my meetings on my lunch break.
Tell them about that, because I forgot about that part. So
that was hilarious.
I forgot about the projects part. So, so as part of my first cohort, as part of the program, I had individuals start to do interviews. And when they were interviewing, they were getting feedback that they didn't have enough experience. Now, I don't understand how you get experience without having a job. So I don't know how that works. And so what I decided to do was to utilize some of my side projects. And actually, I found some nonprofits as well where I could oversee the projects, but then the individuals that I was working with, they would be assigned those projects so that they could have real experience doing an implementation from beginning to end, and they could list that on their resume. And so when you hear her say projects, that's what she's talking about, that they're actually assigned, and we got to assist some really amazing nonprofits in the Orlando area and help them get up and running with Salesforce. Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
It's okay. So when we were able to get to the point after I got certified, we were able to get to the point of actually working on projects because, like she said, we did need to have the practical life experience to go along with our certification. I was working with Shayla. She and I was working together. And so while working a full-time job, like sometimes the client we were working with, they only took meetings during my lunch hour. So I would literally have to duck off into someone's empty office and hold the meetings because I didn't have any type of privacy. So it was very interesting, like to try to figure it out. But I figured out, I made it work. So
and it paid off, right?
It surely did.
Tell us where you are now.
I'm currently working for Advanced Technology Group as an implementation consultant. I'm on my second week, so I'm excited about what's to come. I'm working on getting my CPQ certification. That's next out of the pipeline. And then my goal, it may be a very big goal, but my goal is to, by the end of the year, to be close to working in leadership at my company that I'm at right now. So.
And Jackie, you more than doubled your salary, is that right?
I sure did. I forgot about that. Well, how can I forget about that? I did.
That should be number one.
Like, how can I forget about that? Yes, I did. I was able to double my salary in about, a year and a half time. So yeah, definitely life-changing experience for sure.
And now with that, can you see your salary and your positions higher than your path before Salesforce?
Yes,
For sure.
100%, especially coming from education. You get paid and seeing your students flourish. So this, yes, 100% without a doubt.
Yes, I'm so proud of y'all. I was thinking to myself before I got here, I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. When Jackie called me, I don't remember when Jackie called me and told me about her job. I cried. I cried for like all night. Like
I was just like, you have me crying over here.
because I know how life-changing it is. It's, money isn't everything, but it helps when you have a new
Yeah.
house and you have goals and you have to make,
Yeah.
things work off of it helps you to breathe a little bit more and see a little bit more of how you're going to live the life you want to live. And that's part of what we're doing through this program. And so I'm so thankful that y'all stuck with it. And I'm so happy to be just a small part of your journey. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So so after the Black Orlando Tech program, that is how I started with solidifying and solidifying this idea I had about working with HBCUs. So I started first by going to Bethune-Cookman, my alma mater, and I had a really good relationship with some professors. And so I went to Professor Adams and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And he said, my teachers, I love HBCUs. I could just go in there and they'd be like, okay, come in my class. And I just took over a class. And so I'm talking to a class about, what is it that you want to do? These are CIS students, CS students, computer engineering students. And I was hearing all kind of interesting jobs that they thought they wanted to do. And so I started telling students about what I did and about Salesforce and about consulting, and they had no idea what I was talking about. And so I just asked if any of them would be interested in learning. And Ryan was one of the students, my very first group of college students. Ryan was a sophomore, the other students were juniors or seniors. And Ryan was part of that group that decided to say, this looks interesting. Let me go check out what this lady's talking about. So Ryan, if you can, introduce yourself and can you tell everyone a little bit about why you even listen to me?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm Ryan Williams, graduating senior. Known Miss Tiffany since 2019. She had, like she was saying, she had came to the school. It was in the big science part of the science building. And at first I didn't know what she was talking about. I had no idea what Salesforce was, but she gave a great presentation, and that little thing about Trailhead was what sparked my interest. So I had looked at Trailhead, did some research on Salesforce, and then I had emailed Miss Tiffany, and what she wanted to do was have us 3 students come to our house. And what really got our attention is that she offered us pizza to come over there. So we would go there like over the summer I believe it was like every other week, was it?
Like on Sundays.
So we went there, did Trailheads, learned about Salesforce, and that was fun. And after that, I tried to take my certification, did not pass the first time. Wasn't really, I didn't know what to expect. So I came in there, the test was like totally different than what I had expected it to be. But after that, I got focused on Force because I learned about focus on first. I was doing more Trailheads, just kept studying. And I think it was my 3rd try. I finally
you had
passed.
an internship that helped, right?
Yeah, I almost forgot about that too. Miss Tiffany actually brought a couple of us students to a place in Palm Coast called Coastal Cloud, and they did a presentation for us. And then I had reached out to the hiring manager, and they had offered me an intern position, so I was able to do a lot of different projects. within Coastal Cloud and learn a lot about the Salesforce ecosystem.
So Ryan is like, he's like my child. I'm so excited. I've been working with Ryan for so long. And so you're interning, you are learning Salesforce, you're going through Focus on Force, all while you're in school.
Yeah.
So how did you manage that? Did you?
So in school, not gonna lie, sometimes in class I was actually doing trailheads. I don't know if you all know Dr. Garudu. He had saw me doing that, and he was like, "Why are you doing something else in class?" But, and then instead of going to parties, sometimes I would instead just study for the test. I was like, "Okay, I can't go out tonight. I got to study because I want to pass this test and get this certification." So just made it a priority. That
And was it worth it?
It was definitely worth it because now I got a couple offers. I accepted one at Love, so I'm really excited about that.
That's right. He not only had one offer, he had two offers, and he's certified. And so the second offer was actually better than the first, because they decided he was certified, he's a college student, and they really wanted Ryan to come work for him. And that's a perfect example of what we are trying to do. And when I say we, I'm going to bring in Brian. Let me add the spotlight here. So, you know, Brian is a perfect example of what our goal is when we're working with college students. We want to try to target them around sophomore, maybe even freshman year, right? Because then they're more open to learning about Salesforce, because most college students don't know what Salesforce is. They're not, they're like, okay, you're not Apple or Google. They don't know the career path of Salesforce administrator. So it's not like coming in saying we're teaching them about Salesforce administration. They're not like breaking down my door. And so Ryan is a perfect example of what can happen when we identify a high achieving sophomore. That student then sticks with us for 2 years. That student gets experience. They go through Trailhead. Ryan is already a certified Salesforce administrator. Ryan was able to get an internship. So you have a year and a half of actual internship experience with a platinum partner. And because of that, he was able to get a little bit of above average starting salary for in this position that he's going into with Liv. So are you excited? You graduate in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm real excited about that.
So anything to add to that, Brian?
No, I think you summed it up great. I think Ryan is a great example of what we would like our progression to be with the students moving forward. And I'm so proud of Ryan and the work that he's gotten to do, preparing for these great opportunities that have come to him now that he's an official college graduate. So congratulations again on that, Ryan.
Thank you.
And it's going to be great because in the week or two after graduation, we'll be meeting with Ryan and a couple other HBCU Force alum or current students to go over their offer letters, benefits, and to prepare them for the next part of their journey so that Ryan doesn't make all this money and spend it all like I did. So he's going to be way better than I am. So congratulations, Ryan. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I really am excited for you.
Thank you.
And so I would say after the cohort with Ryan and some other individuals from Bethune-Cookman, I probably did 1 or 2 classes. And somewhere in the middle of that, I met Brian. And Brian was introduced to me by a friend of mine from another program. Again, I'm very active. So another program that I did years and years ago, that individual said, hey, I want you to meet Brian. He's learning about Salesforce. I know you do Salesforce. And can you, he has some questions. Can you talk to Brian? And I talked to Brian, and Brian was amazing. Were you already certified at that point?
Yes, I was already certified. So I started learning about Salesforce kind of at the beginning of 2020. My wife had encouraged me to look into Salesforce because I was looking to make a career change. So I buckled down for the test, ended up passing it on my second attempt. So don't get discouraged if you don't pass it on the first attempt. And then eventually I got introduced to Tiffany, and I got connected to her because I came from the financial services industry. I was a financial advisor, had been doing that for about 6 years. And I didn't really know much about the tech space, about the Salesforce ecosystem. So I was really just connecting with Tiffany to find a mentor, to find out what to do with this new career that I kind of walked into. And she told me, we just kind of hit it off the back, and then she told me about HBCU Force. And even though I'm not an HBCU grad, I went to Miles College for their Upward Bound program, which is in the magic city of Birmingham, Alabama. And it's a great program. Just kind of gets students ready for college. So Miles College is very near and dear to my heart. And when she told me about this organization, it really just spoke to me, because I was one of those students when I was coming out of college that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I took a job in retail, and just seeing the transformation that it made in my personal life, similar to Jackie, coming from my career in financial services, I was able to double my salary as well. So just preparing students and helping them skip over, the lower paying careers or the lower paying jobs that that a lot of these students come out of college thinking they have to do. We want to expose them to a technical skill where they can leverage their interests, leverage their backgrounds, and really just kind of start a little bit further than what we had to start in life when we graduated from college. So I just kind of hooked my wagon up with Tiffany, and it's been a joy to kind of work with her. I really found my passion with being able to work alongside her and really just develop a program where we can reach more students, help more schools, and really just share the amazingness. I know that's not a word, but I'm going to use it. The amazingness of the Salesforce ecosystem and all the amazing trailblazers that you can meet along the way.
Thank you, Brian. So you've done a little bit more than just hitch your wagon. So one, Brian is my favorite because his wife, Latanya, made me this little BCU Astro, and I love it. And it says HBCU Force on the back. So Brian is my favorite. Sorry, all of you, but Brian Latanya. Brian has helped me to recruit and launch. We're currently in 3 schools this semester, 4 classes, 3 schools. So we have 60 students being exposed to Salesforce. That's Miles College, Alabama State University, and Bethune-Cookman University, in which we have 4 classes, 3 Salesforce admin related and 1 marketing related, which is an digital marketing class. Those students are learning email specialists. So shout out to Gilda and Najee and all of the Salesforce marketing cloud specialists that are teaching that course. And then next semester, we will be launching in 3 more schools, possibly more. So we have Harris Stowe, North Carolina Central, Claflin, and I think that's it possibly for now. And so Brian has been instrumental in helping me to recruit because when you're working with HBCUs, you have to get to the right person. That person has to have a warm introduction into you. That usually helps. And so if you're watching this and you're saying, what about my school? I would love to work with your school. I need you to introduce me to the right person at your school so that they are open to this conversation and that we can be introduced to a dean or professor within the computer science or business program. Career services is kind of helpful too, but because our program is inside of a class, sometimes that's outside of career services. And so, but a good contact, whatever contact you have, would be extremely helpful because that is a lot of the work that we do, as well as other organizations. We are expanding out. And so If you have some ideas and would like some assistance with setting up a Salesforce course, we're more than happy to speak with you about it. And so Brian has been extremely helpful. Now I'm gonna bring in Devon. Hi, Devon.
Yo.
So Devon is one of our current instructors. He's helping with the Alabama State class currently. But
Yep.
when I met you, Devon, you actually, somebody introduced you to me. I think you messaged me on LinkedIn. How did I meet you?
Yeah, so Devin Compton introduced me to you, HBCU Force, and I met him during my time at a sales consulting firm. I was, entry level sales, cold calling, 100 people a day. I was actually working 2 jobs at the time. Similar to Ryan, I was trying to get into Salesforce and doing trailheads during work. So I found myself kind of just like, I'm working myself to death 60 hours a week, and while I'm being productive, I'm being inefficient. So I quit both my jobs and hit up Tiffany the same night. So on LinkedIn. And the first thing you said to me was, yeah, I'm doing a cohort that starts like that following Wednesday. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm down, so that's how that happened.
So Devon is very, almost like Brian, Devon is very humble about his transition. So just to be clear, you started learning Salesforce when?
March of 2020.
And you started the cohort when?
That was July 2020.
And you got certified when?
October.
And then you got your first job when?
December 1st.
I see it, and I'm watching y'all because none of y'all knew that, because I didn't know that for a long time. Like Devon quit his job in March, started my cohort in
No,
June,
I
July.
started that job. I started that job and learning Trailhead in March. I quit that job in July. I quit that job and the other, because I picked up a job during that job and I quit both in July. And then, I basically went full-time Salesforce in July is what happened. Because I was like, it's all these people making all this money, doing all this cool stuff. And I felt left behind. I'm competitive. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, at some point I was basically like, my job is wasting my time. As crazy as that sounds. So it was like, all right.
I love Devon. Devon seriously is my brother. Somewhere we are related because me and Devon are the same person. And so I like Devon and Devon's story because he is a recent grad and a little bit of a transitioner, right? Career transitioner, but he's a great example of someone who graduated, was like, no, this ain't for me, not too far into his career. So he was able to kind of make that decision to stop. But at the same time, my goal with myself and for HBCU Force is to still support him. And so again, he's not a college student. He's not a typical career transitioner, right? But he's someone that identified this is the path he wanted to take and what do I need to do it? And he did it. And is amazing. And he's the type of person that I think some companies are missing out on, right? He's not necessarily a tech background. He didn't have years of experience, but Devon worked with me on some projects and was amazing. And part of us helping to Devon to rewrite his story or rewrite the story on his resume, the catalyst to that was the projects that he was able to work on so that he can speak to and demonstrate the experience that he had, right? And so I saw that immediately, like, oh, he just gets it. And he has been able to land a position and do very well in that position. And so I really encourage more partners and companies to take a chance on individuals that maybe don't have the whatever background you think a Salesforce professional is supposed to have, because I don't think there's not a picture perfect Salesforce background. Either somebody has the ability to learn or the capacity to learn, or just in Devon's case, in my opinion, just the sheer talent to be able to take the information and apply it, or they don't. And so I think we have to be a little bit more open-minded about, you know, what we think about as a Salesforce professional, because you do amazing work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Especially for somebody like me who's just like, going and going and going, and you never really look back to see how far you really came. So it takes, opportunities like this to think about your story and think about your progress and not just where you've been, but where you hope to go. So it's very exciting to not just look back, but look forward. So yeah, thank you so much for everything.
Just a little small piece of your story. You did the work. So I'm gonna spotlight everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Are there any words of advice for anybody that might be watching?
I would just say that, remember to brand yourself. And when branding yourself, don't shy away from your non-Salesforce related experience. That's what makes you unique. So highlight that and use that as a strength and to tell your story when you are, searching for opportunities.
Anyone else? Any parting words?
I would say just to not give up and not be discouraged. Salesforce is a great career, and the exam is just that, it's an exam. It's not meant to be easy. It will take some work and some preparation, but I think you heard from everybody on the panel here, maybe with the exception of Tiffany, but I think all of us have failed our admin exam. And have failed other exams as we're working throughout this process. Learning Salesforce or becoming a Salesforce professional is not a sprint. So even though your timeline and your career progression may look different than someone else's, don't be discouraged. Don't beat yourself up if you don't, kind of get overnight success. It's a marathon. You're always going to be continuing to learn. You're always going to be continuing to get better.
I think my parting advice would be to get involved in the Salesforce community, not just the national community, but your local as well, local school, group, admin group, developer group, whatever it is that you can kind of get in front of and get a hold to, nonprofits. That would be probably the biggest thing that anybody that I could recommend for this environment, for this ecosystem to do, because it just opens up like an abundance of doors and relationships. So, cohorts, classes, jobs, just stay in touch with everybody and sort of build that community of your own. So.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Devon said, it's definitely important to network with people, especially if you're just starting out, because had it been not for the connections I made and like the bonds I built with people, I don't know if I would have completed it all the way, but just because I had the support system, it just kept me motivated. And I would also advise to attend as much events as possible, because I attended a lot of career fairs, and that helped me just to kind of build my confidence in what I need to talk about, the key points and everything like that. So if anything is Salesforce related, they're having webinars, career fairs, any kind of challenges, I would advise to just go ahead and jump in there and partake in that as well.
Awesome sauce. And I think out of your group of 5 that you're saying, I think most of you are working in the ecosystem right now, except for like one, right? Yep.
Yeah. Larry's the only one, but yeah, everyone else is working and certified, I believe, as well.
No, there's one more person that's watching this that will watch this, and she needs to take her certification test. She's just being scary.
Her name starts with the D.
It does start with D.
Just
that is her. She does amazing work. So, this
very
is
good work.
so So again, this is the community you get with HBCU Force. We will definitely push you and support you, and that is, pull you along. We're all going together, and so it's amazing. And so, just as a conclusion, one of the things that I always get people ask is, how do I help? What can I do? So there's a few different things. So one, again, if you have an organization or a school that you think would benefit from partnering with HBCU Force, please reach out to myself or Brian. Please let us know. Two, we're always looking for volunteers and instructors. So please be on the lookout for instructor sign-up forms, or send us an email if you would like to be an instructor or volunteer in another area. I always need help. So marketing, blog post, or I have no idea. Whatever you have a talent in that you would like to donate your time to us, we'll take it. And the third thing, of course, is sponsorships. HBCU Force is a 501c3 organization. And so donations are always helpful to pay for our instructors, to pay for prizes for students, to pay for student internships, and to pay for study materials and vouchers and prizes. And so those are all very, very helpful. And so I'm going to put up my contact information here. So you can email me at tiffany@hbcuforce.org. Our website is www.hbcuforce.org, or you can schedule a meeting with me on my Calendly, because that's the only way that we will ever meet, because my days are extremely busy. So everybody knows that's how you get in touch with me. And that is it from me. Thank you all so much for participating in this video with me and telling your stories. And just so you all know, we will do this again.
And with that, we're at the end. What was your takeaway from this video? Comment below. We would also love to hear what video topics you want us to cover in future videos. If you've made it to this point, we want to take an opportunity to say thank you. Since you've stayed with us, here's the bonus. HBCU Force partners with organizations looking to hire a more diverse workforce in all parts of their organizations. Connect with HBCU Force, volunteer, and donate to this organization trying to create a more diverse workforce in the IT space. Thank you for spending time with us. Please like and subscribe to our channel, because we share weekly content to support your tech and Salesforce learning journey. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. Connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on 100daysoftrailhead.com, all of which are listed below. Thank you for learning with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.